Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed guest, Mr. Zafar Khan, Ms. Shazia Amjad, Madam President, VP Admin, students and faculty, Assalamu alaikum. I am your host, Tahira Zaman from the Faculty of Social Sciences, and I will be the host for the evening. Welcome to the launch of Pakistan Center for Philanthropy's study titled The State of Individual Philanthropy in Pakistan, a study relevant to understand people's tendencies and choices to serve or benefit others. It recognizes the fact that nearly 39% of Pakistanis live under multi-dimensional poverty, and philanthropy offers an enormous opportunity to supplement the state-run social programs to reach out to the poor and underdeserved. The PCP is an NGO which undertook this landmark study to assess the volume of individual giving and present new insights on the patterns and motivation at the national level so that philanthropy can grow further. We will begin the program with the recitation of Holy Quran, for which I would request Mr. S.M. Essen, Faculty Management Sciences, to recite a few verses from the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وإن تبدوا ما في أنفسكم أو تخفوه يحاسبكم به الله فيغفر لمن يشاء ويعذب من يشاء والله على كل شيء قدير آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين آمين صدق الله العظيم.
Thank you, sir. Zabis is hosting the PCP presentation here because we believe that universities should engage with major institutions in society. We are pleased to welcome the PCP board. We are pleased to welcome the Pakistan Center for Philanthropy's board member, Mr. Zafar Khan, Ms. Shazia Amjad, and the executive director of PCP. Zabis believes in the idea of giving back to society. For this purpose, various student societies and events have been organized, for instance, the Lions Club and Low Track Society. In addition, Zabis offers courses of philanthropic field, including NGO management, social marketing, and CSR. I would now like to introduce Zabis President, Madam Shahnaz Wazir Ali, who has been associated with Pakistan Center for Philanthropy as its first executive director and had led the center for 7.5 years. She laid the foundation for PCP and many of its leading programs, including NPO certification, philanthropic research, initiated public and private partnership, and promoted sharing as the best practice. She has had an illustrious career as a social development, a social policy maker, an educationist, and has been twice elected as Member of Parliament, Education Minister, Special Assistant to the Prime Minister for social sectors, and her lifelong commitment to education for children of underprivileged households. Her commitment to our Education Trust NASRA and several major contributions in education, health, and women's rights has earned her the Sitara Imtiaz. She has been awarded the Sitara Imtiaz for her special recognition in the field of education. Madam, I request you to please come and say a few words for the occasion.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Our very special guests here from PCP, an institution to which I have been connected and which I still feel very strongly about because it's done some pioneering work. Mr. Zafar Khan, Chairman of the Board of PCP, Shazia Amjad, Executive Director for PCP, Madam Nasreen Haq, Vice President, Admin and Finance for Zabist, the Senior Faculty, Head of Departments, and most importantly here today, the students of Zabist. Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to you. For me, this is very much a special occasion because for a long time I had been wanting to establish this linkage between research work that is undertaken in premier research organizations in Pakistan and the Zabist student and faculty community. Because the fundamental belief and the conviction I think that we all hold is that without research, tertiary institutions such as universities are really only able to do half the job. And increasingly in universities, it is not just about imparting knowledge. It is more about creating knowledge. It is more about inquiry, and it is more about learning what changes are taking place and understanding and comprehending those learnings. In the case of the Pakistan Center for Philanthropy, which is not a research organization per se, but it is certainly a unique organization because it has addressed some of the principal questions that have arisen in Pakistan for many years. Those questions pertain to how do social behaviors, individual behaviors link with social outcomes and development outcomes. And the Pakistan Center for Philanthropy was established on a very, very unique concept. And now the Pakistan Center for Philanthropy has got many institutional programs, and I will not take that away from the presentation and not share everything about it, much as I would like to. But I just would like to pinpoint a few aspects of why the PCP is so unique, so different, and how it very ably and in a very, very organic manner intertwines actual research in the field of philanthropy, which nobody else has done in Pakistan. So it's a premier organization that does research on philanthropy for development, and its particular programs that promote the best standards for giving. In other words, accountability, transparency, and credibility and trust in non-profit organizations. So this is not an ordinary non-profit organization. In fact, PCP doesn't call itself an NGO. And this is one of the definitive discussions that the board had early on when generally speaking, when you talk about civil society organizations, they're referred to as NGOs. And as you know, the dictionary in Pakistan is changing now. It is not NGOs any longer. It is non-profit. It is organizations that function on the principle of being non-profit. In other words, contributing to an important social, economic, cultural cause. And it operates in such a way that nobody actually earns personal profit from it. So today I'm sure when you hear from Dr. Shazia Amjad, the notions of what is a non-profit organization and why it is so important to establish these connections between the way individuals behave in their giving practices and what do they expect of non-profit organizations to demonstrate. More importantly, today's report, which you will be hearing about, and the findings of this report are how do individuals behave. And we know that individuals in Pakistan are very, very generous. We know that. I have sat in so many places and heard that Pakistanis are an extremely giving nation. You must have heard it too. हम ज़कात भी देते हैं, हम खैरात भी देते हैं, हम वैसे भी इमदाद करते हैं बहुत सारे लोगों के लिए, चाहे कोई क्लिनिक चला रहा है या स्कूल चला रहा है या वजीफ़े दे रहा है या किसी अपने इलाके में अपने गिरदो नवा में आप किसी की मदद कर रहे हैं, आप गरीब लोगों की कर रहे हैं, आप हर तरीके से, क्योंकि फंडामेंटल हमारा एक ईमान का एक वो है इंसानियत के बिना पर और अपने दीन के मुताबिक कि आपने उनकी मदद करनी है जिनके पास इतना नहीं है. So the concept of giving is very much part of our culture and our religion. So what does philanthropy, what does the Center for Philanthropy do? Many people ask that question. People give. It's not required for PCP to be here. लोग फिर भी ज़कात देंगे. PCP की वजह से तो कोई ज़कात नहीं देता. आपने जिसको मदद करनी है आपने वैसे भी करनी है, तो फिर PCP का क्या काम है? तो ये बातें सारी मिस शाज़िया अमजद आपको बताएंगी कि what does PCP do? Why does it link itself with the notion of giving? And why have we now introduced over the last decade or so the notion of philanthropy for development? It is not just giving for charity. It is not about charity. It is about development. It is about assisting people to be able to use that giving, whatever it is, small amounts, large amounts, and how that would change the lives of people. So today's event, or the launch of this report, which I think is a really important and interesting afternoon for us all to be here, is to see how this study was conceived, developed, implemented, what were the instruments used, and what are the findings. And the findings certainly say that there's been a huge quantum jump in individual giving in Pakistan. In 1998, the first report, which was done on the state of individual giving, said Pakistanis give annually 70 billion rupees. And it seemed like a huge amount, that annually Pakistanis individually give 70 billion rupees. I won't tell you right now what this report says because you are going to see the presentation and the findings, but it certainly says that Pakistanis give a great deal more. So the questions that are in everybody's mind, why do they give? How do they give? To whom do they give? In what manner do they give? And what is the impact of their giving? All of these are questions that often go through our minds because it's important for us in the university and for those who are here from education institutions and research institutions to ground our knowledge in empirical evidence. So what does the evidence tell us? What does this study tell us? Not some imaginary idea that in Pakistan giving is 100 billion or 200 billion or whatever, but really to look at how do we arrive at this figure. So I'm very, very pleased that we've had this opportunity, Zafar Khan Saab and Shazia. Thank you so much, Shazia, for coming from Islamabad. And I hope that the students will listen very attentively and ask questions at the end. That's the real opportunity for you to learn. So this is an unusual session. It's not about marketing. It's not about social science per se, economics and international relations. It's not about computers and mechatronics and biosciences. It is about the natural impulse of human beings to do something for others. So let's try and understand that a little better. And I really welcome you very, very warmly to Zabist. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam. Ms. Shazia Maqsood Amjad, Executive Director, PCP, is an educationist and development specialist by training, with 20 years experience working with national and international organizations. She has worked with various organizations, including the Government of Pakistan and development partners, including the World Bank, DIFD, British Council, UNICEF, and GIZ. She is a graduate of Harvard Education School and has taught for more than 8 years at the postgraduate level. Currently, she heads Pakistan Center for Philanthropy as its executive director. Madam, I would request you to please come and share the findings of your report. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, thank you so much. I'm really, really grateful to Zabist, and especially grateful to Shahnaz Wazir Ali Sahiba, the President, Zabist, Vice President Zabist, Nasreen Haq Sahiba, Dr. Zaki. We are very grateful for the coordination that has been happening for the past 1 month. We feel welcomed, and I think Madam has set the stage of what the center is all about, leaving very little room for me to really deliberate upon it. But nevertheless, I'll have a go. So Pakistan Center for Philanthropy is unique. It's different. It's the only center which talks about philanthropy in Pakistan, established, as you were earlier told, in the year 2000. Now, I'm an educationist, and I've worked in the development sector for quite some time. When I joined the center, really, I was not sure what was it that I was walking into. Philanthropy, I realized working at the center is a sector in itself. I'm standing in a university. Philanthropy in the West has been very much, it's been, how should I say, it's become part of academia. There are philanthropic centers, there are civil society centers. There's a lot of research going around philanthropy. In Pakistan, PCP is the only body which reports on philanthropy and the giving in Pakistan. We are also unique in the sense that we look into the civil society organizations, and we've realized over a period of time that there's been an issue of trust. People, NGOs, or as Madam said, NPOs, the not-for-profit organizations, generally are viewed with suspicion. लोग बात करते हैं कि शायद NGOs में transparency नहीं है, शायद NGOs अच्छी तरह पैसा इस्तेमाल नहीं करते. But I found out in the 2 years that I've been there, NGOs are doing marvelous work. And some of the gap areas where there are equity issues, NGOs are coming in and filling in that gap. Pakistan Center for Philanthropy provides NGOs with that platform where they can come in and pass through the transparency lens of governance, financial management, service delivery, and then promote and come out and say that somebody looked at us and we are, our systems are great, our transparency, there are no issues, governance issues, and hence we can be trusted for philanthropy to be generated and to be passed through us. The other piece of work that the center does is that we try and connect the philanthropists and the civil society organizations. The landscape of development after the Millennium Development Goals is changing. SDGs have come in. Goal 17 of the SDGs talks about partnerships between philanthropy and civil society institutions. The West, I think, has been avant-garde in actually developing these mechanisms. If you look at big grant makers like Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation, or the Mott Foundation, or the Hewlett and Packard Foundation, they've come in and joined hand with civil society to fill in the gaps in the developing countries. Pakistan has been recipient of grants where Bill and Melinda Gates have actually come in and bought out IDA loans, World Bank loans for Pakistan for eradication of polio. So I think somewhere the universal agenda or the global agenda is to look at philanthropic resources and to harness them for social development globally. I think that sets the tone for Pakistan also, and hence there was need to see what kind of giving happens, what kind of philanthropy happens in Pakistan. And I'm pleased to tell you that this report, I think it's a decennial report, it comes after 10 years. The first report reported 70 billion in giving, that was by AKDN in the year 1990. And this particular report is now after that long period, is updating the information gap on giving in Pakistan. Another very important fact that I would like to share with you here is that we see lots of initiatives in Pakistan which happen through philanthropy. This report is also one of the actions which has, one of the research that is an act of philanthropy. The funders were actually philanthropists who wanted to report on the giving in Pakistan. The academic institutions that we see in Pakistan, many of them are acts of philanthropy in Pakistan. They have become islands of excellence. If you look at health, I will not name institutions, institutions like Indus Hospital, for example, one, or LRBT, or those working in education like TCF. These are the ones which are not only harnessing philanthropic resource, but also channeling it towards development, social development causes in Pakistan, in education and in health. So without much ado, if there are any questions regarding the center, I'll be more than happy to answer, but I would now like to bring you to the state of individual philanthropy in Pakistan. This report was launched on 7th February 2017. President Mamnoon Hussain launched the report in Islamabad, Pakistan, and we are now attempting to bring it to academic institutions and research institutions, provincially also, to share the findings with you. I would also, like Madam mentioned, I'm surprised to find out that Zabist is actually teaching a course on CSR or on philanthropy. PCP as an institution has a rich data set which we have collected, for example, for this report. We also conduct an annual survey on corporate philanthropy in Pakistan. So we have those data sets. And I would like to invite the researchers and Zabist as an institute to utilize that data for MPhil, for thesis, for PhD purposes. We would be more than happy to provide you with that. Coming to the state of individual philanthropy in Pakistan, could you go ahead? Move the slide. I would like to first of all talk a little bit about the study objectives. As Madam had said earlier, the purpose of the study was to assess the volume of individual giving in Pakistan. Pakistani dete kitna hai? Kya quantum hai? Kya amount hai? There's a lot of ballpark figures, but we've never actually come up with a number. Second objective of the study was to know about the patterns and motivations of giving to determine how philanthropy and generosity can grow. So we wanted to know how much people give, where do they give, who do they give to, and what are the motivations behind giving. And secondly, of course, like any other research study, the third motive was to look at the policy recommendations which would come out of the data and the research to inform policy and improve the effectiveness of philanthropy in Pakistan. Into the research design. So the study was basically a mixed study. We followed both a quantitative and a qualitative method. The quantitative side looked at household surveys. So as you can see, we sampled 10,000 households. We also conducted 22 focus group discussions. There were structured interviews, in-depth interviews, and of course a literature review of philanthropy in Pakistan. Next. So the major findings, I mean, it's not surprising. So the quantum of giving in Pakistan at an individual level came out at 240 billion PKR annually. When we further disaggregated it, you can actually see that Punjab, the number for Punjab is 113 billion. Of course, that's not surprising given the size and the population scale of the province. Sindh came out at 78 billion, KPK at 38 billion, and Balochistan at 10 billion. Next. The major findings, the magnitude of giving and by type. So when we were looking at giving, we looked at monetary and non-zakat. We looked at zakat. We looked at in-kind giving. लोग कितना देते हैं ज़रूरत की चीज़ें. Time was a very, very important factor that has never been quantified. Generally ये एक notion आता है कि शायद हम time नहीं देते. लेकिन पाकिस्तान में एक बड़ी चीज़ जो अभी आपके साथ आगे भी आएगी, वो ये है कि हम generous हैं. हम अपना वक्त देते हैं लोगों को, हम volunteer करते हैं. Then we also looked at Usher, we also looked at hides, and of course shrines was a very interesting piece to look at कि shrines में क्या हो रहा है, वहाँ लोग कितना देते हैं. Could you go ahead? On the other side, please. Next. Sorry. So यहाँ पे एक finding जो I suppose there's some issue with how the presentation is moving. So one figure that I would really like to point out here is, as I mentioned earlier, is the time. If you look at time, it constitutes 34%. I think the largest in terms of giving, if we look, and then 30% for monetary and non-zakat giving. If we quantify it, that comes out at 70.8 billion rupees. Next. Next, Karim. Major findings, again, magnitude of giving by type and by province. Again, this has further been disaggregated for Punjab and Sindh. Could you click next, please? All right, so major findings by way of magnitude of giving by type and by province. There are two very interesting figures here, if I would like to point out. For Punjab, the monetary giving stands at 39.3 billion of the total of 240 billion. But if you look at time giving, it again stands out at 18.4 billion. Compared to Sindh, where the monetary giving, which I'll talk about that it is an underestimate, stands at 20 billion. But if you look at in-time giving, it really is much way higher than the monetary giving figure. In-time giving is quantified at 48.6 billion. Another finding of the study, when we disaggregated it further, was that perhaps in Sindh, since the socio-economic indicators are generally lower than that of Punjab, if people cannot give money, if the people cannot give in kind, they give their time. So they come out to help their neighbors, they come out to help the needy, or wherever time is required. KPK similarly, for monetary giving, in comparison to the giving in time, again you can see in time giving is higher than what the monetary giving number. And if you look at Balochistan, interestingly, again, the in-time giving is much higher than the monetary giving in Balochistan, which significantly speaks of the spirit of the people of Pakistan, that if they are not able to give money, if they are not able to give in kind, they do give their time. So another important finding that from the study, 98% of the Pakistanis give. I mean, it's not surprising. I think each one of us sitting in this hall and in this room, we all give in one form or the other. So the 98% figure was not a surprise for us. When we compared it to the 70 billion giving happened in 1998, we can see that as a percentage of GDP, the 240 billion constitutes approximately 0.9% of the GDP. Now, this is only individual giving. We are not talking about corporate giving. We are not talking about giving happening in foundations. We are not talking about other forms of giving. So our estimate is that if we really put all the figures together, cumulatively the percentage from 0.9% jumps up to approximately 1.5% of GDP. I mean, one can safely say that. We were also trying to find out who were the major recipients of philanthropy. Now these percentages are the percentages of the household. So 67% of of the respondents who were individuals, they said that they gave to needy and the disabled and the beggars. Whereas 3% of the respondents gave to organizations, and organizations involved giving to both mosques and madrasas, and very, very few of the 3% respondents, I think another 2 or 3% gave to the civil society organization. And the issue that was highlighted again was a trust deficit, the credibility gap, that these are the not-for-profits that are not being trusted. So people like to give not through the institutions, but would like to give individually. Now 30% of the respondents said that they both gave to individuals as well as to institutions and organizations such as mosques, madrasas, and the CSOs. Major findings for motivation, not at all a surprise, something we've known all along. Religion was the biggest motivating factor for giving in Pakistan. And compassion came next. Affordability, need observed was another, and affordability next. The major findings from these numbers and from this research was that Pakistanis are not aware of existing charitable organizations. Pakistanis want to give. The choice for CSOs, who to give and where to give, was not easily identifiable and was not easily accessible. Therefore, they preferred to give to individuals rather than to institutions. Now, another very important implication from this study was the lack of information on tax benefits. So whenever people make a donation, there is a tax credit or there is a tax benefit. People were really not informed, did not have any idea or any information on this tax benefit available to them. The report also talked about recommendations and the way forward. Clearly, the report is suggesting and recommending that there is need, since the number 240 billion is huge and we believe it to be an underestimate. So there is a need to tap philanthropic resource to enhance social investment in Pakistan. There is also a need for local philanthropy, for local needs with community involvement. Information on trustworthy, credible, effective, not-for-profits was again identified as a gap area, and that's where PCP comes in. Lastly, one of the recommendations was to enhance information on tax benefits that were available to CSOs for effective use of philanthropy. What this slide does not talk about is the challenges that we faced and the weak areas. One of the challenges that we faced when we were collecting data was the high net worth individuals. हमारे यहाँ एक बिलीव है कि एक हाथ देता है तो दूसरे को उसका पता नहीं चलता. सिंध का नंबर हम ये बिलीव करते हैं और जनरली स्टडी का नंबर बहुत ज़्यादा हो सकता था. The quantum could have been much higher, but we were not able to glean the data from the high net worth individuals across Pakistan. So this was one challenge we recognized, and we believe that PCP will be addressing it and looking at it, how to overcome it in future when we do a next study of a similar sort. I talked about the philanthropists who made this study possible. This study was made possible by all these people whose logos you see displaced here. Any questions? I think let's leave it for the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an enlightening session. Our chief guest, Mr. Zafar Khan, Chairman, Board of Directors, PCP, has been associated with the Pakistan Center for Philanthropy since its inception. He has a mechanical engineering degree, and has worked with Anglo Chemical Pakistan, from which he retired in 2004 as its president and CEO. He has also served on a number of diverse boards in both public and private sector, some as chair, including PTCL, the Karachi Stock Exchange, and Pakistan International Airline. Mr. Khan has also served as president of Overseas Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and on several committees of Government of Pakistan in an advisory capacity. The President of Pakistan awarded the Sitare-e-Imtiaz to Mr. Khan in recognition of his services. Sir, I request you to please share your thoughts and views on today's event.
Ms. Shahnaz Wazir Ali, members of the faculty, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, and a very good afternoon to all of you. I have to say I'm really happy to be here. It's my first visit to Zabist, even though I've been a Karachiite for quite a number of years and have actually even lived close to Zabist, but didn't have the opportunity. So it was very impressive to see that film and to see what all Zabist is doing and how extensive and organized and credible an institution it is. I'm particularly grateful and thankful to Zabist for giving your platform to us to discuss philanthropy. I think that is huge and a very significant development. Well, from my introduction, you heard that I'm basically from the corporate world. So I thought to myself that we stand here and talk of philanthropy, but let me kind of reflect back on my own career and see if there's something I can bring forward from that would show how this whole thing has evolved. In the early years, and I started my career almost 50 years ago, so it's a long time. And I just remember how in the company, in the organization, we were always told, you know, you're there to work for the shareholder. The shareholder pays your salary. You know, you have to create wealth for the shareholder. And pretty much that was the central theme and the central focus. Then as the years progressed, somehow something happened and we were then told, oh well, you work for the customer. And you must have all heard, these are also almost now cliches in business schools and so on. Customer is king, customer pays your salary, etc., etc. So suddenly shareholder is fine, but there is a customer and it's really the customer that is paying your salary. Okay, fine, so we adapt and we are reaching out to customers a bit more and being as nice to them as we could to please them and meet their needs. Then along the line, suddenly there was a boom in the Middle East or something, some events like that, and there was an exodus of talent from the companies. And suddenly the organization realized, oh my God, all our good people are going away. So then the mantra in the organization was that people are our most valuable asset, you know, and so suddenly the focus shifts to people. And they say, well, if you've got good employees, that means, you know, the company is going to do well and the shareholder is going to do well. So now we have the shareholder, the customer, the employees, all of them are coming into focus, and some kind of a parity we are trying to strike there. And then we move on a little bit further, and then came in this whole new concept. I say new at that time, and I'm going back a few decades, that, hey, by the way, we owe a big responsibility to the society that allows us to do business, you know, and they house us, they allow us to do the business. And so societies also kind of was brought in. Now it came under different umbrellas. Eventually, sort of like a corporate social responsibility became a catch-all theme for this, addressing this stakeholder. So we've got all the four stakeholders now, and we're trying to strike some new balance and kind of put the message across that all of them are important, and if you do them right, then they help each other go on in that way. So corporate social responsibility is a little bit beyond what initially it was that you must comply with the laws, you must pay your tax, and obey whatever are some other rules and regulation on the environment and so on. So it kind of started to go beyond that. And that's where corporate philanthropy started to come in. That as an organization, yes, we make money to pay dividend to our shareholders. That's exceedingly important. It still is exceedingly important. But we must set aside something from the profits that we make to kind of give back to society as a thank you, if nothing else. But you can say brand building, image building, buying goodwill of the people who surround your business or with whom you have an interaction. So it's been a nice evolution thereof. So CSR and corporate philanthropy, I'd just like to briefly touch on that because you got a great introduction from Shehnaz Wazir Ali on what PCP is all about, and who better to introduce it than her, as she was, as she said, the founder director. And I saw all the good work and hard work that went in at that time to set up PCP where it is, put it on the rails. You know, once you build an organization, then it's a little easier to run it. The initial phases when she was there and all of that happened. So at that point in time, one of the things PCP started to do was to reach out to the corporate world and find out what kind of philanthropy are the corporates doing. And the reason we wanted to do that also was to, find a way to recognize good corporates. Because at the end of the day, as a society, I don't know if all of you or some of you will agree with it, we are very critical. Har cheez kharab hai. So we should have something there to do recognition of people who are doing some good work. So we started to measure, and every year then we would give awards to those corporates that were doing well in terms of philanthropy. And so back in the year 2000, corporate philanthropy was somewhere around like 230 million rupees was the quantum of corporate philanthropy that we measured. Today, the last one that we did was for the year 2015. That 230 million rupee number has increased to 6.9 billion rupees. This is corporate philanthropy. Now, we just heard these big figures of 240, but that's the whole country and individuals. We are now only talking, I'm only focusing right now on corporates, that look at the trend line, look at the growth from 230, it's come to 6.9. But if you look deeper into it and say, well, the 6.9 billion, what does it represent as a percent of the profit that these companies are making? And you find that it works out to that those who give, it works out to about 0.7% of profit before tax. So less than 1% of profit before tax, 0.7, is the quantum of philanthropy that the corporates are doing today. What should it be? Are there any benchmarks, any global standards? Well, we've looked around, and PCP has been in this business for a while. So we concluded some number of years ago that if our corporates could give 1.5% of profit before tax, then that was quite a healthy sum of money to be giving back to society, not to the shareholder as dividends, but being given back to society. So we have a way to go. Then, as I said, or maybe I didn't say, but when we look at the corporate world, and I'm now talking of listed companies, and I'm sure all of you are aware, listed companies are those that are mentioned on the Karachi Stock Exchange. And they're only a small part of the total corporate world. But even among listed companies, only 55% of the listed companies actually do philanthropy. So you say, well, if I can somehow get this number up to 100%, if I can somehow get the corporates to push the number up to 1.5%, then you can suddenly see this number becomes large. And it get even larger because listed companies are only a small part of the total corporate world of Pakistan. There are thousands of companies, and listed companies, I think, are somewhere about 550, 600. So there's a great potential. But nevertheless, I think the important point and the encouraging point is that the trend is good, and the potential is there to kind of get much more out of this system. See, if we look at Pakistan, and I think, as I said, we are all good at criticizing, so I'll do my little share of the criticism as well, that as a country, when we look at our social indicators, and there are, global surveys and, credible agencies that publish this social indicators, Pakistan, last I saw, ranked 142nd out of probably 180 countries and so. But I think what was more concerning was that we are behind Sri Lanka, way behind Sri Lanka, we are behind India, and lo and behold, we are also behind Bangladesh. It was not the case some number of years ago. So progressively, the social indicators have come down, which means health, which means education, which means justice. All of those kind of entities have declined over the years. Not a surprise in some ways, but a big disappointment. Not a surprise because in the last 70 years, our population has increased 7-fold. I'm talking of just what was West Pakistan, right? 30-odd million, we are at least 200 million. So a 7-fold increase in population. Shahnaz and Shazia said, Pakistan are a giving nation, and absolutely dete hain, magar tax nahi dete. So idhar de denge, udhar nahi denge. So if you look at it, the government ki jo ability to collect money to be able to then do things has progressively gone down. Our tax to GDP ratios are terrible. We all know there's a lot of tax chori, evasion, and all those sorts of things. And then whatever little resources we have, unfortunately, I think the norms and standards of governance in this country have also gone down. Merit jo hota tha, jiski itni qadar or recognition thi, is withering away or has been withered away. I was talking to Dr. Ishrat Hussain just only recently because he's done some great study and he'll, I'm sure, publish his book. But one of his principal findings was why we are where we are as a country is because our institutions are failing us. And our institutions are failing us because we walked away from this concept of merit some time ago. So it's all bhai bandi and shifarish and, non-merit oriented things. So it's kind of got us into this difficulty. So there's this huge gap. So this gap has to be filled. Who can fill this gap? Now, I will say that, excuse me, I'm very clear, I can say that the gap is so large that unless the government steps up and does something, it will be very difficult to close the gap. But I also say that I think we can't just wait for the government. I think each one of us, all of you present here, people like myself and others, we all have to play our role in trying to plug this gap. We have to step forward and address how we can, even if it's a small contribution, improve the social indicators of this society. And on that score, I would say that many good people in Pakistan, many good people have created some marvelous institutions, and Shazia even referred to them as CSOs or NGOs, who are doing an outstanding job in health, education, and other kind of social causes. And they thrive principally on the contribution of philanthropy or time from the civil society. And yes, it's unfair to name some. Shazia did name some, and I also find it very hard to resist because we've got to find a way to recognize. And in fact, at the PCP board with Shazia at the next meeting, I'm hoping we can have a good discussion on how we as PCP can do more to recognize these good civil society organizations. We are recognizing corporates who give. It's a very high-profile ceremony. We'll get a president or a prime minister or a finance minister to come, shake hands, give away the award. We'll try and do something similar for the civil society. Because whatever it is, they can provide leadership and create impact for us. So now moving on, I think the study Shazia has presented, its results are useful for us. And it's not just a one-off thing. Now we've got this data, we've got this information. How can we use it, translate it into something which helps in policy making at whatever level, including the government? So we therefore had asked the President of Pakistan to launch it. I'm not sure how many people in the government will read the report, but we will try and find a way at least to take these messages forward, so if we can benefit something from that study. So at this point, I think I'd just like to sort of try and look ahead and say a few more, just make a few more points about what is it that we should be doing, what can be done to really address this alarming condition that our country has got to in terms of all these health and education ones. So as I said, we need to plug the gap. One of the lessons from this study that came out was that surprisingly, a lot of people are not familiar with all these good CSOs and NGOs and the good work that's being done. They don't know how to access them. So this should be a message that we should reach out and inform all the CSOs that they really need to improve their outreach. They need to go out to them, say we are available, make it easy, and for people who want to donate and contribute, that is doable. That'll take some work. You just can't sit in the office and say, well, I'm doing a good job and people will bring. Some of it will happen, but I think a lot more of that needs to happen. We heard that from the giving, a lot of the money that's being collected, it goes to satisfying needy people's, individuals, their needs, which is fine, because Pakistan there are no social nets, right? So if there is poverty and hunger and illness, then people give to people. That's nice. So we don't want to kind of shortchange that. That should go on. But I think what is more important is that if we can get people to give money to build institutions, to build social, what are known as social assets, so that they can then, the multiplier effect is huge. Because if I feed somebody, I've fed him, fine, I've satisfied his or her immediate need. But with the same money, if I can put a few more bricks and some systems and processes to kind of create an institution, then that is more sustainable, it is more scalable, and it will continue to, so as they say, you know, you want the best bang for your buck. So, ₹1 mujhe agar kharch karna hai, so I would like that 1 rupee to give me results of 2 or 3 rupees. That's the corporate mindset that I'm trying to use here. You can do exactly the same. And now there are civil society organizations who actually are trying to run their enterprises like little businesses. The only difference is that obviously there is no dividend that goes into somebody's pocket. They want to make money and they want to plow that money back again into the business. As they say, to do good, make money, to do more good. You know, you plow that money back. And this concept, there's one NGO that I'm also involved with called Acumen Pakistan. They are strong proponents of this, that we take philanthropic money and we build businesses which cater to the needs of the needy, the poor, the bottom of the pyramid, but we do it like a business. We have professionals in there, we have accountability in there, we expect a return on that money, and then take that money and plow it back. So that's the sort of thinking that I think we need to evolve much more of. Many of the civil society organizations are doing that, but we need to encourage that. Because I think if we can build such institutions in Pakistan, and we have the capacity to do that as a nation, it will begin to see much more of the benefits going through to society. I was so happy to hear, also surprised and happy to hear from Shahnaz that there is something on philanthropy that you are teaching. I'm not quite clear what it is, but if it is excellent, because that is one of the recommendations we also made to the President of Pakistan, since he's the overall head of higher education and all of that, that really philanthropy should be taught. You know, it's not enough. I am very convinced. I talked to some of my friends. I asked them, just explain to me zakat. How do you calculate zakat? What is sadaqah? What is waqf? These are all things we think we learned at home or through our religious education, but I've at least discovered that people are very vague about it. Very few people sit down sincerely. One, they don't know, but even if they know, to calculate कि ज़कात मेरी कितनी बनती है, अंदाज़े से दे दिया, चलो हो गया ज़कात, finished. It's not like that. It has to be worked. It has to be, at least so we should teach it. And I think these concepts, if they're explained, this other concept about किसी individual को दें, fine, but if you can build institutions, if you can build more of these great civil society organizations that have evolved, we will get much more out of this. So that's great. The other thing we were thinking of was that we should maybe do a day on philanthropy in Pakistan. Some high-profile event on philanthropy, maybe in Islamabad, to see if we can get the government people, then with the corporates here, to again promote and make all of this happen. So Pakistan is a giving country. That's the good news. Fantastic. We need to strengthen that impulse of giving further. I think there is a lot more juice to extract from this. It's still the early days. And for all of you students who are here, I'm just hoping that when you go out into your work environments and so on, organizations that you join, that you will demand your companies to do corporate social responsibility, not just on paper, but actually demand it. By the way, I was just telling Shahnaz, I've been teaching at IBA for a while, and that's what I tell my students. So I'm telling you what I tell them there, that this is what you should demand when you go in. Ask the leadership of your company, what are you doing on corporate social responsibility? But more importantly, when you yourself become leaders, and soon you will be, the sphere may be big or small, take the leadership on corporate social responsibility and deliver something. So that's, I think, plenty I've already said. I want to thank you all for giving me a patient hearing. As I said earlier, I'm really happy to be here, and I wish all of you a great career and a great future. Thank you, Shahnaz.
The floor is now open for a panel discussion, question answer session. So,
hello. Okay. I'll repeat the question, so just in case somebody didn't hear. The question was that how did you calculate or put a monetary value on the time? As you saw, the three givings, there was cash, there was in-kind, and there was time. So we had said earlier that this study has a very conservative base, and part of that conservatism was that the time that we measured, days, hours, or years, was calculated on minimum wage time. So I think I've almost answered the question, that the time was calculated based on minimum wage. So obviously, like everybody sitting in this room, if I was to calculate your time that you volunteer, shouldn't be on minimum wage, because all of you are well above minimum wage, educated, with experience or whatever. But for the sake of the study, to keep it conservative, we used minimum wage.
I was wondering, what was your sampling method, and was it completely representative of the Pakistani sample and our various stratas?
We have a mic right there.
I also have a few.
Hello?
It was a stratified random sampling method, and we have actually used the methodology that Federal Bureau of Statistics follows, and the blocks that they make it. So it's exactly followed as the FPS does.
Okay, and the household survey that you conducted over 10,000 people, could you tell me about where those people, I mean, the demographic of those people, or?
It was across provinces and across areas.
Okay.
And we also looked at the blocks in both the urban and the rural dividers.
Okay. Okay, I was wondering, is PCP based in Islamabad?
Sorry?
Is PCP based in Islam?
Yes, it is based in Islam.
Okay, and I'm really sorry, but I'm just really curious.
I think we should spread more. I strongly advocate the next but
Yeah.
for now we are in Islamabad.
Okay, you mentioned a point about tax benefits. Could you please explain more about that?
Okay. Generally, the principle internationally and globally is that when you give, you do get a tax credit. So it's a kind of an incentive mechanism to promote people to give more and give institutionally and give it through the right channels. In Pakistan, the Income Tax Ordinance 2001 actually has a clause which grants not-for-profit status to organizations working in the not-for-profit sector. And then it has rules for that 236 clause. It has rules from 211 to 223. There are different criteria which the organizations have to meet in order to enjoy income tax exemption only. And if there are individuals who would like to donate, and then they can also claim a donee status, or they can claim a tax credit on the money that they have donated.
Okay. I have just two more questions.
Sure.
One is, how can students get involved in PCP? And the other is, one of my main concerns is, how do not-for-profit organizations financially sustain themselves? Because I understand, since they don't gain profits, and since their research is really expensive, so is it completely based upon sponsorships, or what are the alternatives?
Okay, so both of them are excellent questions. PCP welcomes any, we take interns on a regular basis. Last year we had interns from NUST and LUMS. So if Zabist, we can institutionalize or formalize a mechanism where students can come and intern with us. And then if you are wanting to, as I mentioned earlier, if you would like to have access to a data set for any of your research study that you would like to do, we would be more than happy to help. As so far as your second question is concerned regarding the sustainability of the not-for-profits, now that's a huge issue. We do look, when we are doing evaluations, sustainability is one of the criteria we look at. But the measure that we actually measure it against is to see if they have 2-3 programs in the pipeline, or if they are looking at accessing funds which are available out there. But sustainability is a huge issue and a challenge for the civil society organizations. And I think as the regulatory environment in Pakistan shrinks, and it is shrinking gradually, because the government is putting into place mechanisms to see that the not-for-profits work in a certain framework, and especially cross-border financing is becoming scarce. So there's need to tap into the local philanthropic resources. And I think it's about not only tapping, but also informing and educating people about making informed choices. And rather than giving to a beggar, you can give to an institution which is doing work at a systems level and is reaching out to beneficiaries and is reaching out to areas which are not only marginalized but also underserved.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'll just add a little bit for you. I think she gave a very comprehensive answer to your question about how these CSOs finance themselves. You see, in the past, essentially, they are dependent on donors. आपने दिया, मैंने दिया, किसी इदारे ने दिया, या institutional, even USAID or Asian Bank or somebody give them money, grants. So they take that money and then they pay their own salaries, admin costs, and then do the program delivery. However, as I mentioned in my comments, a trend that is emerging, and I think that's very important, and I hope we see more of that happen, that these NGOs are trying to now run their programs like a business. So make it affordable, low cost, take it out there and run it in a way that you get something back. Usme ye, even if you charge a rupee, so the person who you are charging the rupee then feels that yaar, I paid for it. He can demand service, right? And the NGO begins to generate cash. As long as, of course, the money that's coming in is not used to enrich the sponsors of the NGO, then that would obviously defeat the purpose. So, and that's where PCP comes in to make sure that the books are kept in a way, the governance structure is such that the money goes where it really truly deserves to go, as was the intent of the donee.
This is just my question, comment as well. So the comment first. Comment is that the CSR is not only giving money, but it's about the responsibility as well. So time and knowledge is also the responsibility of the persons to give the community. Now question. The main issue of CSR in Pakistan is about how to channelize this money towards the real stakeholder, I mean the real community. I have one example. I like to quote one example of Badin district, where Rajiv Khanani, one union council, where around 26 oil and gas and drilling industries are working there, getting money from there. Almost on daily basis, they are getting millions of rupees. But in Pakistan, the lowest indicators, basic indicators of life of about all exist in that union council. So where CSR money is going? It's a main issue how to channelize this money towards the community, and currently Pakistan is facing that issue. So I think that PCP can conduct such type of studies that how to properly channelize this money towards the community and how to improve Pakistan's human resource indicators. This is my question.
Your comment was spot on. As we said, that CSR is not simply about just giving a few thousand rupees or millions of rupees here. CSR is very broad. It means so many things. For starters, as I said, you have to comply with the laws of the land. If you are a chemical industry or something like that, you follow the environmental emission standards, safety standards, industrial health and hygiene. All of this is part of CSR. Now, your second point was that the money that goes, how is it being used, who monitors it, and so on. This is an area it's kind of relatively new. And it's a good suggestion you have made, and by the way, we have been talking about this amongst ourselves, that how do we strengthen this whole CSR approach. And in fact, just a month ago, Shazia and I, we've been exchanging views on this. We are in touch with the Overseas Chamber, where a lot of corporates are members of that, all the big names, Shells, the Unilevers, etc., that we deal with them at that chamber level to see how we can strengthen the CSR program. But I want to just give you one example of a CSR that this whole awareness and thinking has really progressed to a new level. Everybody has heard that, Thar, in the Thar desert, we are developing a coal field, coal mines and power generation from Thar, which has not happened all these years of Pakistan. I have personally gone there to have a look, and I'm telling you, it is so impressive. Not the scale of the work, which is, of course, very impressive, but the fact that the management and leadership there, how concerned they were about the local Tharis, how to kind of make sure that they see some meaningful change in their lives. How will they make sure that most of the jobs go to those locals? There's no drinking water there, building reverse osmosis plants for them, upping the schools, the health facilities. Now, of course, there's also going to be a local airport there, etc., for bringing of goods and supplies. So it's happening. But a lot needs to be done. And so to that extent, I take your point fully that, you know, Pakistan needs to do more work, and PCP will also try to play its role in promoting the CSR culture further.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Zuhaib Faizi, and I'm from Indus Hospital. I'm a team lead. I'd like to thank Ms. Shazia for endorsing the service of Indus. So I have like two questions. Firstly, just to take the same conversation forward, I believe the CSR, the corporate social responsibility, has definitely a broader meaning, but we sometimes mix CSR with corporate philanthropy. Corporate philanthropy is absolutely like giving away the money from the corporations, but corporate social responsibility is, of course, has a broader meanings. So is PCP doing these kind of research as well? That so for instance, I know organizations or the state culture here, that they are not actually focusing on their employees when it comes to donation or philanthropy. They are more focusing the outside-in approach rather than inside-out approach. So, for instance, they just donate it to the organization or to somebody who is a needy people out there. But when it comes to the labor policy, when it comes to the employees policy, they are not really concerned about that. So if organizations start focusing on their own employees first and then go out into the society, I think this will actually have a higher impact. This is my first question. And secondly, I would like to know that for PCP certified organizations like Indus, what are the project partnerships and what are the grants and fundings platform? Does PCP provide such kind of platforms as well? I was just going through the website and I saw that there were some partnerships. But how exactly like organizations like Indus can actually take help, because it's expanding like crazy. The hospital itself is going from to 1,800 beds, and other cities is also taking place. So these are two of my questions. Thank you.
I'll answer the part B of your first question, which was regarding the CSR research, and then Zafar Saab will answer your general comment ahead of before that. So as regarding the CSR research, PCP has been traditionally conducting a survey of public listed, unlisted and private companies in Pakistan, so as to note the amount of giving that has been happening. And we've been capturing that since the year 2000. Last year we also did a synthesis report which said cumulatively in 15 years how much money was given under CSR. And this year also we are again undertaking a similar exercise. And then based on that survey that we conduct, we also do a corporate award every year on the basis of volume of giving and percentage of profit before tax giving. Now coming to your second question, whether how PCP can connect. To be very honest, we've been looking at different ways and means to provide incentives and benefits to organizations that are certified by PCP. Currently, there are 2 or 3 initiatives that are underway. One, I'm pleased to tell you that we are developing an e-digital e-portal similar to what Global Giving is in US, where organizations such as Indus Hospital, I mean, you are a large organization, but it's more important for the small-sized ones and the medium-sized ones which do not have the resources and neither the ability and the capability to come up with a similar portal. So you'll be able to post your projects, or all organizations that are PCP certified will be able to paste their projects, programs, and then you can actually do a crowdfunding. It's a crowdfunding kind of a platform. So one, we are developing that. Secondly, we are also looking into different kind of partnerships. For example, there's a lot of IT infrastructure available there. Microsoft offers lots of its services free of charge. So we are currently negotiating if we can bring that value to our certified organization. Thirdly, regarding resources, I think there's a room for improving the linkages between our certified organization and especially the CSR giving that is happening within Pakistan. And as far as cross-border resources and their connectivity is concerned, PCP has recently concluded an MOU with Give to Asia. So if you would like to post your need or your program on a Give to Asia website and raise funds, you will be able to do that. Secondly, they have a fiscal sponsorship program for which they charge a $1,000 fee. So we recently negotiated and they've reduced the fee from, I suppose, not substantial for entities like Indus Hospital, but especially substantial for smaller organizations. They've reduced it for PCP certified organization from USD 1,000 to 200. So you can again apply to that fiscal sponsorship program, and the basic criteria would be that you would need to be PCP certified. If there are more ideas and more suggestions, we are very happy to hear more from you, and we would like to work harder in that area and provide that connectivity and linkages in the future.
I think we should have a meeting on that as well sometime soon. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just add a couple of more points. I think we've made this point once, but it's still important to make it, that looks, corporate philanthropy is a small part of CSR. So let's be clear about that. I mean, this is more for the students, you might be clear. So CSR is the overarching thing and corporate philanthropy is one element of that. Now, as far as corporate philanthropy is concerned, I can tell you from experience that it's undergone quite a sea change in thinking in the corporates. You will see quite a few of the big corporates today now have their own foundations. So like the company I work for, Engro, has an Engro Foundation. So all the Engro entities put money in that foundation. That foundation then is charged with dispersing that money. So they look at the causes, they evaluate the people who come to them, and they also try to see, you know, because the needs are so huge, that how to prioritize and where to put that money for maximum impact, because the company also wants to be a beneficiary of it. You know, so their image and their branding and all of that is strengthened. So all of that is going on. Your other part about looking internally at their own workers and so on, that is also changing, but that varies from company to company. So a company like Engro, for instance, all this CSR corporate philanthropy work has nothing to do with its employees or their benefit or their welfare. For that, they have their own schools, hospitals, and facilities. So this is also an evolutionary stage, and I think good things are happening.
Hello. Thank you very much for, valuable information and presentation PCP provided us. Very small and simple question, though you have answered many of the questions which I wanted to ask through many of the audience. Already I have got answer. My simple question is, as you told us in your speech and session, out of so many, I mean, hundreds of thousands of organizations in Pakistan, they even are not registered in stock exchange, and hardly from thousands of organizations, 55% are paying or contributing towards the CSR. What PCP can play a role, or how you can get involved them to contribute something towards CSR? I mean, is there any law, or you have that type of authority to forcefully get them involved towards the, for betterment of society?
I think it's a very, you've asked a very important and a critical question. Let me start answering your question by giving you an example from our neighbor next door. India has recently passed legislation whereby they have made it mandatory at 2% annually. So I think there is role for PCP to start a dialogue amongst all the stakeholders, and perhaps take it up also with the government as a policy recommendation to have something similar as mandatory percentage for CSR. So I think that there is still work to be done there.
About the Supreme Court decision of India about 2%. Can PCP do something about it?
I think it's not, I think legislation is done by SECP, and that's a federal level entity. So I suppose if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is a federal level legislation that would be required, not provincial.
Yeah, I think so we are very clear about the universe. There are listed companies that I had mentioned too, about 550, 600. They are directly under the charge of the stock exchanges, now the stock exchange and SECP. And all rule making and regulations emanate from there. Then there is this big wide universe of non-listed companies, private limited companies and so on and so forth. They run in 2000s. SECP there is still their regulator and controller. See, India has progressed, no doubt about it, and we can take some inspiration from the work they have done. But in the case of PCP also, the corporates were not disclosing how much philanthropy they did. So PCP went to SECP, persuaded them, the then finance minister, so that today all listed companies in their annual reports have to disclose how much corporate philanthropy they have done. So ये जो हम numbers quote कर रहे हैं कि इतनी philanthropy हो रही है, this is from the annual report of the listed companies. So this is step one. पहले you make it aware and get the disclosure done. Now it's then a question of persuading the government to legislate or do something to make it mandatory to give. Generally speaking, mandatory ones people react and then they shortchange you in other ways. So either you allow it to evolve or you take a sledgehammer and hit the corporates. They are saying as it is, itne sare taxes government ke lage hue hain, worker welfare fund hai aur ye fund hai, wo fund hai, ye ek aur upar inhone hum pe zabardasti kar diya na, cost of business is going up, so we can't compete with the rest of the world. Bijli hai nahi, load shedding ho rahi hai, upar se ye taxes aur laga. So this debate drama will go on. So partly it will be a process of evolution, partly it will be a process of persuading the government to try to take some measures that are doable to enhance this side of things.
All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
I want to say. Okay. I think at the tail end, I just want to appreciate the interest that the students have taken, the very good questions that have been asked, because I know that this is a new area for you. Philanthropy for development is not something usually that one is familiar with, and there are very few textbooks on it, by the way, that are used in Pakistan. So there's a lot of work that PCP can still do. For us in Zabist, it is very important, particularly because in the context of the Management Science Department, headed by Dr. Zaki Rashdi, we do teach corporate social responsibility as part of one of the modules. And also the importance of the whole sociology around human behavior. So in the social sciences department also, if there are any students here from the social sciences, this is a very interesting and important phenomena. And the third area for us which is important is development studies. So development economics, which looks at how much money does the government spend on its people for education, water, skill training, health, etc. It should now also look at what amount of giving, philanthropic giving, from the corporate sector and the individuals can go into development. In other words, into institutions that are addressing a particular development need. So if there are institutions like TCF or DIL or CARE, DIL is development and literacy, as you know that, also, and CARE is a very important initiative. So those are institutions addressing education. And if any corporate or individual is giving to institutions like that, this is really for development. It is not for charity. It is not for welfare in that sense. So I think there are 3-4 strands that connect with us, Mr. Zafar Khan and Shazia, on how universities can profit and benefit from the work that you have done, the research that you have done. We would very much welcome access to the data. We would very much welcome internships, particularly at our Islamabad campus, where I think Dr. Zaki will coordinate with you for a similar session with our students for a briefing. And that we could perhaps do some collaborative research if PCP wants to undertake some further research on In Sindh, for example, or in Karachi, or on the corporate sector, our students are excellent. We've got some very, very committed students here who take an interest in joining teams that go out to do survey and research work. So I think there's a lot of linkage. I certainly will ask all our libraries around our system to ensure that they have the corporate philanthropy report. If you could send us, I think, CDs and also make it available electronically, that would make a lot of difference. I want to thank Dr. Zaki, who has put all of this together. And once again, I'm very appreciative of all the students who are here. I know you have another class coming up, and you probably have that on your minds you want to run. Thank you to all our other guests who are here tonight from very important organizations, because I know that for you, this is a very meaningful discussion, as the representative from Indus Foundation, Indus Hospital just told us. So it's been a good session for us. It's a new area of work, of research, of knowledge, and it is a growing area. There is an Asia-Pacific Philanthropy Consortium. There are consortiums for philanthropy in Africa, in Europe, in the Far East, in America. The biggest philanthropist you know about, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. And similarly, there are very, very large, Mr. Zafar Khan, I was reading recently, there are multi-billionaires in China who have established big philanthropic foundations. 200 plus billionaires in China. And we don't hear much about them because we're still oriented towards the West and we think of Bill Gates. But there may be 5 Bill Gates now coming up in China and coming up in other developing Eastern economies. We know that in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in Japan, in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in Thailand, there is also a lot of philanthropy that takes place. So this is a very interesting area to study, and particularly to look at in the context of development, because it adds to the resource pool of development. Not just government budgets, not external, just DFID or USAID financing, but our own indigenous financing for development. So let me finish by asking just 2 questions of our students. How many of you give? Raise your hand. Zakat dete hain, ya sadqa dete hain, ya khairat dete hain, individuals ko dete hain? Individuals ko dete hain, haath uthaiye. That's a pretty good number. All right. How many of you give to institutions? Very good. You give now to institutions in which you obviously believe. You believe this is a good institution that is doing good work, that is transparent, it is efficient, it is accountable, and it is transparent in terms of responding to the funding that you give. So this is a good trend. I'm very pleased to see that so many young students are giving to institutions also. And this is really what we all need to do increasingly. Give to institutions that strengthens the social, economic fabric of Pakistan. It definitely does.
Just say one more thing. Just one last thing I wanted to say. I'd forgotten earlier, but I'd like to say. I think this is for the students, that once you progress from finishing your studies here, do also seriously consider career opportunities in these civil society organizations. It has changed. It's changing, it has changed. Some of them are paying decent money, but don't go for the money because then you're in the wrong place. Then go to the MNCs, the Unilevers and the Engros and the Shells. But if you have a passion for a cause, and yet, of course, you have needs, you need to have a paycheck, which allows you a reasonable living standard and so on, then look at NGOs, civil society organizations. There's some very good ones that have come up, and some of them are paying fairly decent money.
So, we have to say final word. Thank you.
All right, the final word, just a word of thanks to all. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Shaheed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto Institute of Science and Technology, Zabist, we would like to thank Ms. Shazia Maqsood Amjad, Executive Director, PCP, for collaborating with Zabist in launching in launching PCP Report 2016 and sharing the insights of this report. Thank you, ma'am. We are indebted to our chief guest, Mr. Zafar Ali Khan, Chairman PCB Board of Directors, who spared the valuable time and graced the occasion. Thank you, sir. We are obliged to all of our guests participating from the corporate sector, participating from the government sector and social sector, who spared their time and honored us with their presence. Thank you very much for coming. We are grateful to Ms. Shahnaz Wazir Ali, President Zabist, who has taken the keen and personal interest and provided the patronage for this event. Thank you, ma'am. Finally, I would like to thank Dr. Javed Qureshi and his team, Ms. Shazia Salam, Ms. Tahira, and Farooq Naseem Qureshi, actually, who worked hard. It's not me, my face is there, but actually these people who worked hard for this event. So thank you very much for putting up this event. My final and big thank you to my students who cheerfully participated in it. Thank you all.
Madam President, I request you to please give a token of appreciation to our esteemed guest.